You're listening to Simple Roots Radio episode number 90, and today we're breaking down supplementation and answering the question, do you really need to supplement? It's one of the most asked questions I get, and I can't wait to dig in today.
Welcome to Simple Roots Radio with Alexa Shern. Alexa believes that simplicity in life is the key to achieving true and lasting health. And now your host, Alexa Shern.
Welcome back to this podcast. I'm your host, Alexa, and this is the place to get healthy, live happy, and find joy. Today, we're talking more about health and specifically answering one of the most popular questions circulating, and that's, do you really need to supplement? This is one of those topics that we're going to present the big picture. But here's the deal about supplementation. Like anything in health, it's very individualized. There's not a one-size-fits-all or this blanket statement that we can say for everyone, this is going to work. However, I can tell you from my own health journey that supplements have been vital in healing my body. And this is coming from someone who didn't agree with supplementation about 10 years ago. In fact, I vividly remember a very heated debate that I was having with my then boyfriend, now husband, and his roommate. And it was over this protein supplement. And he was trying to convince me that we cannot, no matter how healthy we eat, we cannot get enough vitamins and minerals from the food that we consumed, and therefore we must all supplement. Now, at the time, I was a nutrition student, and that's not what we were learning in school. We were not told to promote supplementation. In fact, it was kind of looked down upon. So, of course, I was against it. However, fast forward about 7 years, and I start going through all this crazy health stuff, and there I learn that supplementation is going to be vital in healing my body naturally and effectively and getting to a place where I am now. So I'm a huge believer in supplementation. Again, my supplements are constantly changing. There are some supplements that we could probably recommend for almost everyone. We're going to talk more about that in the show, and I'm going to ask our guest on the show what those are. You can also head on over to the show notes at simplerootswellness.com/090 to learn more about all the supplements that I recommend and additional ones that maybe you could try out if you're curious about learning more. Anyways, that's my deal on supplementation. So today I'm excited to have a guest on to talk more about supplementation. A supplement expert, Dr. Erin Stokes, is going to be answering all of our questions on if we need supplementation, how do you know if you need it, and where do you begin? Again, that's all in the podcast today. Dr. Erin Stokes is a holistic practitioner working in integrative care as well as the medical director for the company Megafood. Speaking of Megafood, they are the sponsor of today's show, and again, I'm delighted to have them on because if there's one thing you must know about my sponsors, it's that I first have to love them. And if I don't love them, I don't promote them, but the company Megafood is one that I can fully stand behind. The world of supplementation can be confusing and messy. Sometimes you don't even know what you're getting, but not with Megafood. They're on a mission to not only bring you high-quality supplements, but also to be fully transparent in the process. And that's what I love most about them. They show you exactly where they're sourcing their ingredients, also how their products are being produced, and everything else you could want to know about their supplement brand. Not to mention, as you'll learn in the show, they also produce their supplements from natural sources, unlike synthetic vitamins and minerals that we often find. In fact, there's estimates that over 95% of all supplementation is synthetically derived, which is basically man-made. Megafood, on the other hand, likes to focus on the natural sources. These become more bioavailable and just more absorbable in the body. So just one more reason to love this company. Overall, they have a great quality, and most recently, they released their newest line of gummy vitamins. You might think these are just for the kiddos, but these are actually created for adults. And specifically people like me who have trouble swallowing pills. I don't know about you, but for some reason, pills just don't like to go down. It's a sight to be seen in my house. In fact, all the family loves to watch me try and take my supplements because it's not an easy thing. But Megafood came to the rescue and released their newest line of gummy vitamins. They are delicious, they are sourced from quality ingredients, and they're chewable. So you no longer have to worry about if that pill's gonna go down or not. To learn more information about the gummy vitamins and all the other products that Megafood offers, head on over to their website, www.megafood.com. Also, don't forget to head to the show notes at simplerootswellness.com/090 to get more information on the supplements I take and recommend. But before we get to the show, can you believe we're approaching 100 episodes? Oh my word. I'm so excited that you're here and to see what Simple Roots Radio has done so far. I'm excited about the future, what's coming up. Again, next week kicks off our summer series all on resetting the mind. I cannot wait for the summer series. I've done a lot of research leading up to it and honestly have such a passion for the subject coming up. So you're going to want to stay tuned. Next week, we're kicking it off with a solo episode all on the mindset and starting to define how our emotions and those thoughts really impact our total body and answer the question, can you think your way thin? I mean, it's a fascinating subject. So stay tuned. And coming up on the 100th episode, there's something very special I have for you. So you're going to want to stick around. Make sure you share this with your friends and family, especially if you're loving Simple Roots Radio. And don't forget to head on over to iTunes to leave a rating and review. To do that, simply go to simplerootswellness.com/review or find Simple Roots Radio over on iTunes. Click to leave a rating and write a review. I honestly read every single review. They mean the world to me, and really, it's vital to the health of the show. This is how other people who wouldn't otherwise hear about Simple Roots Radio find it and like it, just like you have. So again, it means the world to me. If you could do one thing for me today, it would be to do that. So if you do that, thank you so much. And thank you so much for sharing the show. But enough announcements. Let's get right to the show. Welcome to the show, Dr. Erin Stokes. I'm excited to have you on and share about a subject that so many people are interested in.
Thank you, Alexa. I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
Yeah. So today we're going to dig into supplementation. And I think that there's a lot of talk about supplementation, and there's also a lot of confusion about it. Like, do we use it? What is it for? Like, how do we get started in supplementation? And so I kind of want to dig into all of that today and kind of talk about some of the newer trends with supplementation. So I always just want to first start by asking you if you could break down what supplementation actually means and how we can define that in our own lives.
Yes, I'd love to. And that's a great place to start because when you think about the word supplement, it becomes a word that we use so frequently, we forget about its true meaning, which is supplementing your life, supplementing how you eat, how you live. And a supplement is intended to do just that. It's not supposed to be everything. It's supposed to be an add-in to supplement how you're living.
Right. So it's just an additional resource. Now, I've been getting the question quite a few times actually over the last month of, if you have an already healthy life, is supplementation necessary? Like how in a person's personal life, how would they define, yes, I need supplementation? Is it for everyone, or how specific is it?
It's another great question. I think, although supplementing is an add-in, I think that in today's world, it's become more important than ever. So I always believe as a naturopathic doctor that food comes first. Food is first. It's fundamental. And we always want to look at food first for our vitamin and mineral intake. But we know that in today's world, Alexa, we need a little help covering the gap. We eat really differently than our grandparents did. And in fact, even if we did eat completely optimal, which is probably what some people are asking you, I eat so well, how could it be that I would have to supplement? There's actually some clear evidence out there for the declining nutrient composition of food. There was a study that was published in the Journal of the American College of Nutrition. So that's a really prestigious journal. And it looked at the changes in food composition over the years from 1950 to 1999. And it showed declines in some key areas and some key vitamins and minerals.
Yeah. So just our food system in general, and I've heard this over the course of time too, is just not the same as it used to be. So are you saying that supplementation is maybe in general a good idea for everyone to consider?
Well, it's something I would say that's important for everyone to consider. Now, I'm also a big believer that we are all individuals. And so we all have individual needs. And we can definitely touch more on that. In terms of a multivitamin, because of the declining nutrient composition of food. And that's not meant to be a downer. I mean, I was at the farmer's market this last Saturday. I always have a, community-supported agriculture share. I'm a big believer in local and organic fruits and vegetables. So we just need to look at that reality. And then I think also, Alexa, combining that with looking at modern lifestyle, which is also very different than our grandparents. We live in a different time. We live in a different era. and we have different stressors on our body. So sometimes we also need some additional supplementation to help with some of those challenges, modern challenges that we encounter every day.
Right. And it's not, like you said, it's not just that we're not getting enough of the nutrient that we used to. Maybe it's too that we have so many stressors, and those stressors take more nutrient value inside of our bodies to actually do the job that it was supposed to do.
Well, just as an example, you were right on there. It's when we're under a lot of stress, we actually can deplete vitamin C. Our adrenal glands, which are two little glands, they sit atop of our kidneys, and they're they're part of our endocrine system. And there are glands that really help modulate our response to stress. And so we're actually seeing increasing levels of deficiencies, even in vitamin C, which so many people think, oh, vitamin C,
right.
I must get enough of that. But you can actually, that's a good example of one vitamin that may get depleted during times of stress.
Okay, that's interesting that you say that. And maybe we're going to go off a little bit on vitamin C. But I have heard, and I've seen a few more studies popping up about the value of vitamin C. And it's so funny that you say that, because so many people would probably just assume, well, it's vitamin C. Don't I get enough of that? Or, like how important really is vitamin C? But there's a lot of research coming out showing it has huge value inside of our body. So can you explain a little bit more about vitamin C and maybe dig into that a little bit?
Of course. So many of us think about vitamin C as playing a supportive role in the immune system, and it definitely is important for helping optimal functioning immune system. It's not the only vitamin, though. We're learning more about vitamin D and zinc. So it's important for optimal immune system health. It's also important for connective tissue in our bodies, for skin, optimal skin health. And so it's interesting, Alexa, because there is documentation. There's actually the Center for Disease Control, which is a government organization, did a study that found that 15 million Americans have low serum vitamin C. And I actually even wrote a little piece called Scurvy. The days of scurvy are long gone, right? Vitamin C, we all get enough vitamin C. But I think part of that's because we're not really getting enough fruits and vegetables. And so vitamin C plays such an important role, as I mentioned, like in immune system health, connective tissue, skin health. It's a star player. And that's, honestly, vitamins and minerals in general, they're essential nutrients. They're really needed by our bodies to function properly. And every vitamin, every mineral plays its own role. I mean, you can really think of it as an orchestra, where if you're missing one instrument, say, you're missing the trumpet section, the music is not going to sound right. And that's just very similar in our bodies. If we're missing even one key nutrient, it can impact our body's ability to function and be healthy and have our optimal best self, whether that's in the immune system, nervous system, it will depend.
Right. And I mean, that's a good intro into nutrient deficiencies, because I feel like our body gets out of whack, but it also does a great job of picking up the slack. And so when we look at nutrient deficiencies, like you said, there's 15 million Americans. Is that was a statistic you said, right? 15 million Americans are deficient in vitamin C or have low.
Yes.
Okay. So we look at that, and I think that there are people all over who are deficient in nutrients that maybe don't even know it. So can you give us some initial starting symptoms of what some nutrient deficiencies look like that maybe aren't, I feel like we look at symptoms when they're drastic and they're affecting our life, but there are little signs of nutrient deficiencies that maybe don't impact our life, so they're easy to overlook. Can you give us a few of those signs and symptoms that we are deficient in something?
I sure can. And the thing that's a little tricky about signs and symptoms is that they're not indicative in a clear way of a nutrient deficiency, and I'll explain a little bit more. So, for example, fatigue. Alexa, we know that, lack of energy or fatigue is one of the most common things. Probably you've talked about it on your podcast. People want more energy. They're seeking more energy. That's why there's huge lines at the coffee shops every morning, is people are looking for more energy. Well, fatigue is one of the primary signs of low iron. So if you have an iron deficiency, you may feel fatigue. You also may feel muscle weakness upon exertion. You could have pale skin. might have an inability to keep warm, but because you're fatigued, does that mean you definitely have iron deficiency? Of course not. If you have fatigue, you could have iron deficiency. You could have low thyroid function. There's a lot of different things that could be going on. But the main message here is if you are feeling fatigued, that it's worth getting it checked out. It's worth working with a trusted healthcare practitioner, because I think that sometimes we take how we're feeling as kind of the new normal. Yeah, I'm tired all the time when I wake up, and I don't really know why, but I'm just going to kind of just slog my way through it. And really, 1 in 10 women in the United States is at risk for low iron. So it's a big deal. And I guess so my main message is if you're feeling some of these signs and symptoms, you don't know what's going on, get it checked out, because it could definitely be indicative of a nutrient deficiency. And iron is a great one to highlight because it can be kind of ambiguous, right? You feel kind of tired, low energy, you look pale in the mirror, but you ultimately need the lab testing to figure it out.
Right. So it is a good and wise decision for people to go in and actually get their nutrients or their labs tested for their nutrient levels.
It is, particularly in certain nutrients. You know, for women, for men, iron is probably not going to be an issue. For menstruating women, absolutely menstruating women, pregnant women, or postpartum, those are all important times to have your iron levels looked at. Another fairly easy blood test that I think important is vitamin D.
Yeah.
So vitamin D3, there's actually 90 million Americans, so actually even higher, quite a bit higher than that vitamin C number. 90 million Americans are either frankly deficient or they're what's called insufficient, where their levels are kind of low, but they're on the low end. They're in the low range. I mean, it's well defined. They're in the low range, but they're not quite deficient. And again, this is just very mainstream Center for Disease Control data. They did a big study on the United States population. So even in sunny climates, you know, sometimes people say, oh, well, I live in Florida,
right,
or I live in San Diego, or I live in Arizona. I don't need to have my vitamin D3 levels tested. It can actually be surprising for people to find out. And vitamin D3 is really important for optimal immune system health, mood health, bone health. So there's a few standouts that should be tested. Do we test for every single nutrient? Well, that would be pretty expensive and challenging and hard. But I think when you go in and you're having certain symptoms, that they can often correlate those with certain deficiencies.
Right. And I suppose it's maybe a little bit more important, and you can clarify this, but like when we talk about vitamins and minerals with a toxicity to them, I mean, how do we go about, you know, and I get this a lot, you know, I look at the back of a pill bottle and it has 1,000% of my vitamin A or vitamin C levels, you know, like people are concerned about this toxic load, which rightfully so, they should be. So how do we navigate that in the supplement world? Like what's safe, what's not?
I think that working with a supplement brand that generally does moderate potencies is really valuable. I really do. And I've always been a believer in more moderate potencies. And those higher potencies, those therapeutic levels, they really should only be utilized when you know that there's an issue. Now, there are certain vitamins where it's more, you want to pay even closer attention. I'll give you an example. Vitamin D, which I was just talking about, is a fat-soluble vitamin. So although vitamin D deficiency is very prevalent, it would be unwise to go out and start taking very high levels of vitamin D without just knowing what your levels are. That I'm a big believer in. The more you know, knowledge is power. And so the more you know, the more that you are empowered to take charge of your own health. As a naturopathic doctor, I am all about, and as an educator, empowering people with the information. And so that's why I will encourage someone. They're like, well, I just don't know. How much vitamin D? Get your levels tested. It's actually becoming easier and easier to get your vitamin D levels tested because there's a recognition of the issue. So I think that to that end, going with more moderate potencies, say when you're taking your multivitamin, for example, more of how nature intended. We talked about food first.
Mm-hmm.
The same holds true with potency. You can look to nature, like, well, how does it get delivered? How does it get delivered in nature? For example, the company that I work with and do education with, we get real food from real farmers. And you can't get closer to nature than that. I mean, it makes a difference when you're utilizing real food, when you're getting full organic oranges from an orange grove in Florida, and you see those oranges coming in crates to the facility. It doesn't get more real than that. And so for me, it's very important to be able to connect to the source and to look at sourcing and where things coming from and quality. And then that more moderate potency. I'm not a believer in those really high potencies unless you have the information that warrants doing that.
Right. Like the therapeutic doses should be used under the watch of a practitioner, probably. Yeah. That's always my opinion and there has to be a reason for it. But like you said, it's just not, therapeutic doses aren't natural. But at the other hand, some people do need those and there's a time and a place for it. But in general, if someone's just looking for supplementation, like the moderate potency multivitamin is relatively safe for most individuals, correct?
Yes. And I think that how you said that was really well put, because there's always going to be an exception. I really believe when you look at supplementation, that starting with your foundation is crucial. So often people will say, I'm so confused in the supplement world. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to take. Or they maybe even go out and buy several different supplements but have a hard time taking them regularly. And I think probably a lot of listeners are nodding their heads like, oh yeah, that sounds like me. But what I like to do is sort of back up and say, let's start with your foundation. And foundation means like the foundation of your house. You don't start building your beautiful home on top of a cracking foundation. So let's start with the foundation. And what do I mean by that? A foundation would be a multivitamin, ideally a gender or age-specific multi, because women and men have different needs. The iron is a good example of how women and men have different needs. And needs can also change throughout life. So if you have a gender and age-specific multi, that can be ideal. Another foundational supplement that I think be very beneficial for most people is a probiotic. We have emerging research on the importance of a healthy, what we call microbiome. And that word microbiome is just like our healthy kind of community of bacteria that live in our GI tract that we're learning play in a really important role in not just our digestive health, but also supporting optimal immune system health. And the list goes on and on. They're learning more and more about how important that GI bacteria, that microbiome is. So multivitamin and a probiotic are a great place to start. If you just start there, and then maybe you say to yourself, okay, next time, say you're a woman that goes in for an annual checkup. Great. Next time I go in for my annual checkup, I think I'm going to check in with my doctor and ask her or him if I can get my vitamin D levels checked. Excellent. Or I, have a really heavy cycle and some of these symptoms are sounding like they could be me. I'm going to get my iron levels. I'm going to ask for my iron levels to get checked. Excellent. So we just build on that foundation, because otherwise, I think, Alexa, sometimes people get so overwhelmed. We can all get overwhelmed into feeling paralyzed and actually doing nothing.
Right. I think that's a lot of people, even in the health field in general. There's so much confusion to sort through. But I think you posed an interesting question of consistency. Like, how important is the consistency of taking nutrients? Can it be a hit or miss thing, or is there more value to doing it daily?
I think that when you take something, say, let's use the multivitamin as an example, every single day, then you actually have a sense. You can gauge if it's making a difference in your life. If you take something once and then you forget for a few days and then you take it again and then maybe you forget and you take it over the weekend, you can't really say, if it's making a difference because you haven't been taking consistently. So I think consistency is key. And part of that is just how do you develop the habit? And then that actually leads into alternative delivery forms, because sometimes people can be more consistent with a delivery that's more pleasing. For example, there's a big craze, and it's more than a craze, it's a trend. It's real. It's here to stay. It's really a trend with gummies. And it turns out 40% of American adults have a hard time swallowing pills. So that's another impediment for some people to actually taking their multi. Although, I still love the multi. It's hard to get a multi into a gummy format. So either a tablet or a powder for a multi. But I think a gummy could be a great way to get some of those other nutrients that have high deficiency levels, like D3 or vitamin C or B12, which we didn't talk about yet, but B12 is really important for optimal energy. And so adding in those different nutrients, say you take your foundational multi and you want to add in certain nutrients, a gummy can be a great way to do it. And people don't forget to take their gummies. I can tell you that.
Right.
It turns out that adults seem to love gummies, maybe even more than kids do. And from all my work in education, they're like, I never forget to take my gummy because I just look forward to it. And the main thing, though, with the gummy is making sure it's a really high quality gummy, because I was not on board at first when gummies first came out. I thought, I don't know about this idea of pairing vitamins with a lot of sugar, but there is a way to make a better gummy and I think to do it right. And I think that's really important because we don't want to get a lot of added sugar. I mean, most of us are probably trying to reduce our sugar consumption in this country is at I would say epidemic levels. So the last thing you want to do is getting a whole lot of extra sugar with taking your vitamins. But there is a way to make a better gummy.
Right. And I want to talk about gummies in a second. But before we get there, I just want to talk about the difference between supplements, because there's this whole synthetic supplement and then there's the natural sources of supplementation. And so can you kind of describe in your body how it breaks down and how it's used, synthetic vitamins and minerals versus more of the natural ones that are coming from our fruits and vegetables?
Sure. Well, nature knows. So always look to nature, right? We talked about food being first. And I think that when vitamins and minerals, I personally, a USP nutrient is just that. It's basically the vitamin and mineral in its just pure form. But I think that in nature, we're usually taking that in within a food. And so I think that the delivery system makes a big difference. And so when a vitamin or mineral is paired with real food that comes from, farm that we know exactly where it came from, I think transparency is key here. We want to know where our ingredients are coming from, whether it's a packaged, box of organic crackers or whether it's a package of our supplements. So we want to know where things come from. And when vitamins and minerals are delivered with food, then that can often be a gentler way. If you're able to take, say, your multivitamin on an empty stomach, that's a big deal to be able to do that. If you have a multivitamin that's gentle enough to be taken any time of day, even on an empty stomach, then you know that your body's assimilating it. And I'm sure, Alexa, through all your work, you've talked with people that have a really hard time taking vitamins and minerals. Mm-hmm. And so when that gentle delivery system helps the body be able to take it, have the uptake and absorption and that gentleness that you can be more consistent and take it every single day.
Right. That makes sense. So when we talk about not all supplements being created equal, how do we know what to look for then?
Yes, I think, that touches back on the transparency piece, is
mm-hmm.
that's also something that's a bit confusing. I think that you can feel like you don't have to do it all alone. I think that's one thing I like to tell people. Many people have a trusted advisor, whether that's their healthcare practitioner, they might go see a naturopathic doctor or a nutritionist or an acupuncturist, or they even have we have a great integrative pharmacy in town that people really go in there and get good advice. And so find out about the brands that, your peers as well as professionals are trusting. Find out. You are going to have to do a little bit of homework. I have to be honest. But most of us, we're doing our homework with the foods we eat. And so we needed to also do some homework
Right.
with our supplements. And that just means a little bit of digging around. Find out more about, don't just blindly take something, find out more about the company, like where are they located? Like what are their values? Where do they get their ingredients? And then beyond that, you can say, okay, that's great. Let's say I'm in the store and I need to make a quick decision. What do I do? You want to look for certifications because these certification bodies, it makes a difference. And so you want to look for things like certified companies that are certified B Corp. Those are basically leaders in this movement of using business as a force of good. And you have to meet certain levels for social and environmental performance, transparency, accountability. So there's a very rigorous process that companies have to go through for B Corp. You also want to look for non-GMO project verified supplements. This is something that's important. These genetically modified organisms, I think the jury's still really out. And for me, I want the right to choose, and I'm going to go non-GMO. Also, you want to look if you have any allergies or, you're looking for allergens. You want to look for supplements that are certified gluten-free. You want to look for supplements that's tested dairy-free and soy-free, if those are concerns for you. You also want to look at the supplement companies, particularly if they're utilizing fresh fruits and vegetables, which is a great thing to do, but you also want to make sure that they're tested pesticide and herbicide free then. So these are certifications that some of the certifications you might want to look for and that you should be very prominently displayed both on labels and on the website of the company that you're looking at.
Right. And this is just, generally, this sounds like a lot of work, but generally it's just initial research. And then once you find brands or a brand that you like, it's you can kind of settle into that. It's just kind of the starting out. Is that how you would say it too? It's not as overwhelming as it appears. It's generally pretty clear once you start looking for it.
Yes. And I think that it's finding a brand that you trust. And I know that customers are looking for a brand you can trust. And I appreciate that you brought that up because we don't want to overwhelm everyone. It's like, holy smokes, I got to look for this and that. But it should be really apparent, and again, I would venture that a lot of people out there, you're already looking for a lot of that on your, you might be buying a bag of, I don't know, like the chips or crackers. You're looking to see that it's non-GMO project verified. If you have a gluten sensitivity, you're looking to see that it's gluten-free. So you're already doing some of those things. I think a lot of people are already doing things. It's just doing a little research. And like you said, when you're finding a brand, find brands that you trust, ask questions, and it's not that complicated. I mean, I've been using the same multivitamin for over a decade.
Right.
So it's not that complicated once you find the brands you love.
Right. You just kind of settle into it. I want to switch gears. And by the way, we'll link up the brands that I like over on the show notes, especially Mega Food, which we're going to talk about. Mega Food just launched their new line of gummies, and I'm going to be linking all those in the show notes as well to kind of help sort through. But I always recommend that people dig into companies because it's easy just to take knowledge from other people, but it's another thing when you can really see and read for yourself what these companies are doing. And there's just a lot more trust involved in that. So I really encourage everyone to kind of jump on board and jump into these companies that I'm going to recommend over in the show notes and dig in for yourself. But I want to talk about Mega Food because they're getting on this gummy train, which is the new trend. And you kind of mentioned gummies earlier, but I want to dig in a little bit. What's the significance? Is it specifically what you talked about is just simply getting people to be more consistent about it? Or is there something to do with the absorption of those as well?
Yes. So I think a big part of it is consistency, the combination of American adults, I couldn't believe that 40% statistic. I honestly didn't know
I had no idea that either.
That many adults
that can't swallow pills. Yeah.
Yeah, they have a hard time, whether they can or it's just, a challenge. In any event, that's where it's at. And that we're finding also that as people are learning more about supplements, and I am a firm believer that supplements have their role, or I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. There's also this opportunity where people are getting kind of pill fatigue. And I mean, I can relate to it too. I take a multivitamin that I love in tablet form. I take probiotics. I take extra turmeric. I take couple other things. And so the gummy is a great alternative option, particularly for some of these nutrient deficiencies that are very well documented, like B12, D3, vitamin C, that you want to get some extra amount and do it in a way that's going to honestly bring a little joy to your life. But the most important thing is that it's done right. And like I said, I'd like to share with people, I didn't just jump on this. I was like, okay, if we're making a gummy, I know our team will make the best gummy out there. And we actually co-created these gummies with a panel of customers, which is so cool. Like, we actually reached out to our core people and we asked people to join us, and we got advised every step of the way. And one of the things we heard loud and clear was very low sugar. There's 2 grams or less of sugar per serving. These are all plant-based, so they don't have any animal products. They contain pectin instead of gelatin. And then they use real food. You can actually pick up the gummy and look at it, especially in the light, up to the light or the sunlight. You can see the food in there. And these do have really unique flavors like ginger and cranberry that come from our farm partners. And they're non-GMO, like we talked about. They're organic. And we made sure that there's nothing that we don't want in there. No high fructose corn syrup, no sugar alcohols, no artificial flavors, no preservatives. So I really believe that this is a better gummy, and it took years to make this. We did not just do this overnight. We, talked about this and made sure we were doing it the right way. And I'm proud of what we came out with. There's actually award-winning. Our B12 Energy Ginger won an award recently for the best new supplement delivery format. And people are like, well, gummies aren't new, but it's how we made the gummies that's so new and fresh and unique to our farm partners.
Yeah. Well, I can assure you that I don't forget to take my gummies. I can swallow pills, but there's something more enticing about the gummy. It's like having a little candy for a little break.
It is. It's a little sweet treat, but it's also one, if you are a label reader, and like I am, I'm not obsessive about it because I feel like, we need to live our lives. But of course, I'm looking for quality, and I'm always looking. That's one of the first things I look at. Like, if I have an 11-year-old son, he wants something. Say he wants like a special drink. It's a treat. He just, won his soccer game or what. The first thing I do is I flip that label over and I look at the sugar. And I do that with gummies too. And you'll see that in the marketplace, this is a very low sugar gummy, 2 grams or less per serving. And the neat thing is that it's provided this opportunity for people to really taste the flavors, because we've been talking for so many years about our farm partners. Now you can actually taste it. You can taste the cranberry and the B12 energy, or the ginger. If you're a ginger lover like me, you can taste the ginger. And so it's been really nice, an unexpected benefit is it's connected people more to our farm partners, because they're like, oh my gosh, this cranberry, it's amazing. And we say, well, yeah, this is a cranberry that comes from James Lake Farm in Wisconsin. And they're like, oh, I always heard you talk about it, but now I actually can taste it. It's been really fun that way.
Yeah.
Connecting people to the food.
Yeah, you can really taste the flavors. It's really, really cool. I was just interested to know, because I think a hard issue with supplementation too is how are our bodies digesting it, which would be so individualized. How are we digesting it and absorbing it? So I was curious to see if gummies actually were broken down easier than maybe a pill form. But that's probably a topic for a different day. Because I'm always, fascinated by the absorption of how these are working, because it is so different, but again, very individualized. But because most people probably don't care about that, I just have a few more questions. So can you break down a few myths, just a couple of common myths that you find in the world of supplementation, and share what the truth is about supplements?
Yes. I think one of the biggest myths that currently is out there is something we talked about at the beginning of the show. And that is that you can get everything that you need from your diet. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing that I would love to believe more, but the data shows otherwise. So I think that's one of the first ones, even though we talked about it a bit earlier, to really address head on, is the data is showing that we're just not getting everything, and absolutely keep striving to get the best and the most out of your nutrition, but know that a supplement can really help, particularly a multivitamin or specific nutrient supplementation can help fill the gap. So I would say that's the first one. The other one is that the supplement industry tends to be, I think sometimes we like to say that it's all good or it's all bad. We're sort of, we really like extremes, maybe because extremes don't have as much gray area. And so another supplement, myth is that there are certain people that are sort of anti-supplement. I mean, we know that, and that's definitely out in the media and out in the world, people that just unfortunately look at the whole supplement industry as it's kind of like one, and they've decided that supplements are bad. On the other end, actually, and I think just as dangerous in a lot of ways, is that some people sort of look at all supplements as good. And the fact is that all supplements are not created equal. And I think that's something we need to really get out there. And one of the things I love about your show and other podcasts like this is that just like everything, all food companies are not created equal.
Right.
All supplement companies are not created equal. But what I find that's very polarized, that there's kind of sometimes true believers that, will just really say like, oh no, it's the same. It's the same. Like it has, there's a picture of fruit on the front, so it must be the same. It's like, well, do you actually know where that comes from?
Right.
Or do you have any idea what the sourcing is? So it's not all good and it's not all bad. It's actually somewhere in between where there are so many good supplement companies out there. Not, I come from one of them, but I could name off the top of my head many other ones that I know well, and I know about how their practices and sourcing are. So it's just about like finding out the truth.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Okay, last question. If you had to give someone one starting point in the world of supplementation, what would it be?
I would say start on the multivitamin and then begin your quest for finding out your individual needs. So it's not one size fits all, Alexa, so that part makes it a little tricky. I think almost all people should have a vitamin D test, and I think that's pretty widely accepted amongst the medical community in general. I know my medical doctor routinely tests everybody for vitamin D, and I live in sunny Boulder, Colorado. So, that's a good starting point. But I would say start on the multivitamin and then start looking into your own individual needs. And that would include testing. Okay,
good. Good starting points. Again, I'll link this up in the show notes. So if you just want to read it out a little bit more, I'll have that all in the show notes for you to kind of sort through as you're listening to this. But before we go, I'll have a few quick fire questions for you just for fun. But I really do appreciate all of your knowledge with supplementation. I know I'll probably be getting a lot more questions in. So if you have questions, please just send them over, and I'll maybe see if Dr. Stokes can answer a few of those for me, and I can pass those along to you. So we both understand that the supplement world can be overwhelming at times, and we hope that this podcast helps sort through that. But before we go, a few quick fire questions. Okay, first up, what's the first thing in the morning you do for your health?
I meditate every morning.
Yeah.
First thing, before I do anything else, before I feed the dog, before I do anything. I wake up in the morning. I have a little spot where I meditate. I'm the first one up in the house before my husband, son, everybody, and I meditate for 20 minutes every morning.
Yeah. So good.
And it makes it's a life changer.
Oh, yeah. It's the little things. And I feel like we live in the world of hustle, hustle, hustle. But even when you're talking about energy levels and how our adrenals are taxed, we can do other things outside of that to help our body out to not have these nutrient deficiencies. And sometimes it's just slowing down and making time for some of these things. So next question is, what is your favorite health book?
That's a tough one. I think there's so many that I like, but I'm choosing one that's more about emotional and spiritual health, and that's called The Book of Joy. And it is His Holiness the Dalai Lama with Archbishop Desmond Tutu. And it's an amazing conversation between two men that come from different places, different faiths, that are, they're definitely older and have lived through a lot. And it's called The Book of Joy. And the subtitle is Lasting Happiness in a Changing World. And it's a pretty remarkable book.
I'll have to check that out. I haven't read that one yet. That sounds like a really great book, though. Okay, what's one food you couldn't live without?
I think avocados. I'm a big fan. I love I love the richness of the taste, but knowing that it's a healthy fat. I think there's also a part of me that loves this. I'm imagining it growing in some sun-drenched tropical spot. So I think the avocados.
Yeah, that's a good pick. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Another tough one. I've received a lot of good advice over the years, but the one that comes to mind is what other people think of you is their business and none of your business. I think when you're a leader, particularly a woman leader, you got to be willing to not care if, people aren't necessarily approve of what you're doing or like what you're doing or like you. I think, you have to learn to follow your own truth in your own path, not worry what other people are thinking about you.
Yeah, so good. What is the best piece of advice you could leave us with?
Well, I was speaking recently at this Women Leading Regenerative conference just a couple weeks ago. And one of the things that I talked about is making peace with yourself. I think that in your health journey, that nobody's perfect and there's going to be lots of stumbles and slips along the way. But I think ultimately, if we make peace with ourselves and with where we're at right now and realize that we're always trying to be better and do better, that would be very significant. So make peace with yourself.
Yeah. Dr. Stokes, I thank you so much for being on the show and filling us in on supplementation, which can be a hard subject, but I felt like you really broke it down and made it very simple and easy to understand. So thank you so much for being here. Can you let us know where they can learn more about you? If they want to follow you or find you, where can we do that at?
I think probably the best place is LinkedIn. And that seems to be where people go to get in touch with me or learn more about me. So again, my name is Erin Stokes, Stokes. And ND, I'm a naturopathic doctor, and it seems to be very easy to find on LinkedIn. So okay. I would go there.
Perfect. I'll link that up in the show notes as well. So thank you again for being here. I really appreciate it.
Alexa, thank you so much. It's been a true pleasure.
Wow, that answered so many of my questions on supplementation. I hope it helped clear some confusion. Now I know the world of supplements can still be confusing. I hope you just got the basic answer to why we need supplementation and where to begin. Like Dr. Stokes mentioned in the show, this is a very individualized topic, so it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. If you have the resources to get tested, that's a great starting point. If not, it's always wise just to start with the basics, that multivitamin, maybe some vitamin D, vitamin C, probiotic, whatever seems right for you, and listen to your body because you're going to know as you start to take these products if you're feeling better. It's going to take some time though, so don't think, okay, I took it one day and I'm not feeling any different the next day. You really have to be consistent for a period of time for your body to notice if it's working or if it's not. So again, to learn more about this and the supplements that I recommend, head on over to the show notes at simplerootswellness.com/090. Now, the thing about supplements is these are intended to supplement an already healthy diet, not to replace a bad one. So don't think you can take your supplements and then eat whatever you want. It doesn't work that way. In fact, absorption and digestion of supplements is going to happen and occur more easily with a healthy diet. So your body's going to be more adept to handling these things and using them if you're already consuming an already healthy diet. But at the end of the day, like Dr. Erin Stokes says, and we've mentioned on previous podcasts, our environment is just no longer suitable to support our body's needs. We're under more stress with more toxins and more chemicals coming in than ever before. And no matter how healthy you eat, sometimes our body just needs that boost, that pick-me-up to help your body to do the job that it was designed. Anytime we're short on any amount of nutrient, yes, your body has crazy incredible means to pick that up and pick up the slack, but over time, that slack is going to add up and you're going to start to notice things happening and things aren't working the same way they used to, especially when it comes to our energy. So my recommendation, and to voice my opinion, yes, I think supplementation is almost vital in everyone's life. I even just kind of do the basics with my kids just to help support their growing bodies. So again, to learn more about this, head on over to the show notes at simplerootswellness.com/090. And don't forget to head on over to Mega Food, the sponsor of today's show, to learn more about their high quality, naturally sourced vitamins and minerals. Again, I love the company simply because of that and because they're so transparent. Not to mention, they have quite a few certifications. Again, head on over to Mega Food to learn more. Check out the gummy vitamins, try them out. You can also find Mega Food products in a lot of different grocery stores like Whole Foods. Locally, I've seen them at New Pioneer Co-op and Natural Grocers. So again, you can get them online or you can head to the store to find more about them. One product that I'm really loving that I didn't mention in the show notes is their Daily Energy Nutrient Boosting Powder. I love this. If you know me, then you know I've gone caffeine free this year. I've never felt better from it, but sometimes, right? I still have a young family. Sometimes I still need some energy. And I found that this product really provides that lasting energy that I'm looking for, that quick pick me up in the morning. I can add it to my smoothie or my matcha or whatever I'm drinking and just mix it in and have a natural source of energy that my body can use throughout the day. So again, head on over to megafood.com to learn more and don't forget to head to the show notes. And as we come to the end of the show, I just want to remind you, stay tuned. Next week kicks off our summer series. I'm so excited. So next week, stay tuned as we kick off our first mindset podcast. And then on Friday, our first podcast, our little bonus episode that we're going to be going through on your most embarrassing health questions answered. If you have a dying, pressing question you'd like answered this summer, make sure you shoot me an email at alexa@simplerootswellness.com. Okay. That's enough of me talking today. Make sure you share this with a family. Get them to join this community of like-minded people who are just looking to live a healthier, happier, more joy-filled life. I'll see you next week. I'll be back on Friday with a very special bonus episode before we kick off the summer series on my 5 go-to recipes for summer. If you need a little healthy recipe inspiration, stay tuned for that. See you then.